Hello everyone, welcome to the Bad Vibes Club. I'm Matthew de Kersaint-Girodo and I'm your host. Today I am talking to Richard Whitby, who is an artist living and working in London, who mainly works with film and performance. Richard has just had a show open at Jerwood Space in London, and he's got a new film basically as part of the Jerwood FEU Awards. So the exhibition is called Going Gone, and Richard's new film is called The Lost Ones. Me and Richard spoke while he was in production just before he filmed The Lost Ones. So we speak about him being in the middle of that process. We also speak about what it's like to work with actors and how to kind of host those productions in which you're asking people to do things for you. That's a really interesting part of the discussion. But we begin with the discussion of a kind of long-term project that was the last thing Richard did that was called The Jump Room. The Jump Room is a series of works that came together as a film, some performances, and finally a publication. And it's all based on a conspiracy, which is the first thing that I asked Richard to do is get him to explain that conspiracy. Okay, enjoy the podcast.
The theory is something that was mentioned to me by a family member who is a genuine conspiracy theorist, if that makes sense. And the theory roughly is that the American government and military have access to this teleportation technology, which specifically is in the form of a lift. So it's disguised as an elevator in various different buildings in the US. And if you get into this lift, then you will get out on the surface of Mars. Well, underneath the surface of Mars.
Okay.
And it's not a particularly widespread conspiracy theory,
Right,
but there are quite a few people. It kind of connects to lots of others, like in a kind of conspiracy universe.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting.
And I suppose one of the things that's brought a bit of attention to that theory is that it's been connected to the kind of birther conspiracy around Obama. But actually, weirdly, the main guy that I researched, who's a theorist called Andrew Basiago, he basically he says that he was part of this program, people going to Mars, and that it was a kind of like a CIA training program almost. So Andrew Basiago says that he was involved, and at the same time that he was involved, so was Barack Obama, who then had a different name, which was Barry Soetoro.
And is that how it fits into this birther conspiracy?
Yes, but actually Basiago uses that whole thing to in a way praise Obama, and sort of use it as a way to prove how good of a president he is. So he's not part of the birther thing, but it connects to this kind of, I don't know, at the time I guess this kind of sense of otherness around Obama. But yeah, Basiago uses it as a way of shoring up Obama's presidency, which is coming to an end when he was kind of speaking at these kind of conferences and stuff.
And what happened? Did he kind of go public with this theory, or was it a theory that already existed before he started talking about it?
I don't know, actually. I know it primarily through his version of it.
Yeah.
I think it kind of keys into this other, like a body of theories, and this thing that people call Project Pegasus, which is a broader range of like teleporting and time travel and alien technology and
maybe we can get that
stuff.
You'll give me eyes like we don't even want to get into Project Pegasus.
I don't know that much about it. It was really just this, like, the thing that got me into this theory was quite specifically Andrew Basiago's explanations of it. And
right, because he's quite a particular character, isn't he?
Yeah. So he's got this way of explaining it with a kind of high level of very banal detail. So he, I think, presumably, to add sort of weight and sort of some kind of believability to his account of it, he speaks of it as if it's just been his regular job, like he just explains it in terms of like what the building is like and going into the building and signing his name on a register and speaking to a security guard, getting in the lift, going to Mars. It's all very kind of flat.
Did the person who told you about it, the family member who's kind of into conspiracy stuff, did he take that level of banal detail, or he or she take that level of banal detail as a sign of veracity?
No, he actually didn't go into the theory at all.
Okay,
just
fair
like
enough.
dropped it in as a joke, and I didn't get the joke, so I searched the theory online and then found it through that.
Okay, so in a different way then, how come that stuff struck you as interesting, the fact that he goes into this kind of banal detail?
I just found I suppose I'm interested in kinds of performance and kinds of improvisation, and I think this guy Andrew Basiago does a lot of interviews and a lot of talks about this stuff, and I suppose it's probably worth mentioning that kind of a little bit after some of the material I was looking at was recorded, he sort of tried to run for the presidency.
No way.
So against Trump. So
Right,
he saw himself as like the inheritor of Obama's jump room legacy.
Yeah.
So having been through the same program, supposedly,
Yes.
he was kind of ready in the same way that Obama had been ready.
Right, I see what you
take on
mean.
that.
So that's why you're saying it was kind of an affirmation of Obama's presidency, because it was
Yeah.
like, look, we're in this elite training program together. He was a good president. I could be a good president.
Exactly, yeah. And he did release like his list of so the promises that he made in connection to his candidacy, which didn't get very far.
What was he for, Republicans or for Democrats?
He was an independent.
Ah, okay.
So his like election promises were a really strange mixture of like quite good stuff about healthcare, but then also like super libertarian stuff, like everyone should carry guns all the time, and also full disclosure of all these secret programs. So it's quite a strange mix of like quite, in American terms, quite left stuff, but
Yeah.
then really crazy right wing stuff, and then just conspiracy stuff.
Yeah. I'm surprised he didn't win the race.
Yeah, well, I'm not exactly sure how far he got. But yeah, so back to what you're asking, he gives these like really long online interviews. So the main one that I watched is about 2 hours long, and he's really just like riffing on these themes, and it's a really strange kind of mixture of like outlandish fiction where he's describing all these predatory animals that live on Mars and that attacked him and Barry, like Obama, as he was, apparently. And then this kind of level of just like procedural detail. And I don't know, it just struck me as kind of very strange, like
Yeah.
this mixture. And he's it's like you can see him working it out as he's saying it. Yeah.
Have you always been interested in conspiracy theory because of that kind of
I think this is the first. Well, I suppose I should say, like, I've not really. It's not like an area that I've researched
Okay.
thoroughly, really,
Yeah.
at all. It's just this one thing. But I suppose I did do some work around the time of the financial crash, where I worked with this colleague who was kind of, I suppose in his terms, educating himself about what was going on with the global financial system. And he really sort of leaned towards, this kind of conspiracy mindset where it was like it was basically all down to the Rothschild family that were like causing all this stuff.
Right, yeah.
And I just had this job. I suppose maybe this is quite a good connection. I had this job which involved standing with this person for a long time, like kind of minimum wage sort of standing around job.
Yeah.
So he exposed like me and all of our colleagues to this like quite torturous level of detail of his like personal take on the financial crash.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I suppose that is connected. But again, that was something that I got really interested in his version.
Yeah, exactly.
Rather
I see what you
than,
mean.
trying to get to the truth of what he was saying.
Yeah.
And similarly with the jump room stuff, it's kind of awkward to talk about in a sense, because if I explain this stuff in this way, I think it probably sounds quite comical.
Yes.
And that's not really
Yes,
my...
it definitely does.
Yeah. But I'm not really that interested in sort of making fun of the actual theory or even saying if I believe it's true or false or not.
I guess, like, I always think of this, but like as a person, like I'm sure you're happy to discuss it, but as an artist, I guess that's not what
Exactly,
drew you into it.
Yeah.
So what did you do that the project was like 2 years, right? As far as I can tell, 2 years worth of work. There's a few performances, and then
thereabouts. Yeah,
a video installation as well.
Yeah. So in the end, I suppose it was a total of three versions of a 2-screen video, and I had this idea that that somewhere in there was a format which involved video material sort of traveling between 2 screens. So yeah, in a way like teleportation, and that there was a way of kind of adapting material sort of between the screens. And I didn't really find a way to do this, but that was the idea. So I did that in 3 different ways. And then eventually that involved kind of scripting material for 2 actors to kind of perform 2 different characters who were kind of, sometimes appeared that they were speaking to each other. So one character being this kind of middle-aged male conspiracy theorist, and the other character being a sort of young service worker. So in the final one, that character became a barista, like a London cafe barista. And I suppose that those 2 characters are supposed to contrast in terms of their performance of very different kinds of fiction, I guess. One being like a very, arguably a very self-indulgent kind of performance where you're explaining this stuff that could be completely made up.
The conspiracy
theorist. And the other being, so the younger person who's performing this kind of service role is sort of performing this fiction to do with, adding value to a product, basically. So they're kind of not, their performance is completely owned by their employer, basically.
And their job depends on it.
Yeah. So that was
in the film. There's like the interview, which is the interview of the barista, which is one kind of performance, and then their performance to the customer of
exactly.
I guess like have a nice day style friendliness.
Yeah.
Well, a bit more than that. The kind of effective economy of providing an experience with your coffee. Yeah.
And there's a bit where they're kind of explaining I don't know what you call it in coffee, like the kind of tasting notes.
Yes.
Of a particular coffee. So that was one side of it. And I guess just to say that those characters only kind of solidified in the final version.
Oh,
so that was the third version.
And that's the one I will have seen, right?
Yeah. So there's 2 other ones that are kind of more sketch-like. The middle one was made on a residency in Korea. So it's with Korean actors, and it's half of it's in Korean, which was quite a challenge. And kind of a different thing, I guess. But the other things that we did were these performances that sort of took elements of the stuff that I found interesting in this area, and then like offered other artists a kind of chance to collaborate on something. I really don't know how to describe those performances very well because they were done very quickly and very kind of in a way without too much thought, really. They're just kind of, they're almost just adaptations of the material from the videos, like, or the research from the videos. It's just like, okay, there's this stuff, like, what can we do with it?
The one I've seen is called Give Good.
Give Good, right? Yeah.
And it's with, I'm going to pronounce her name now.
Soo-yeon Kim.
Soo-yeon Kim.
Yeah.
And Sean?
Sean Parkinson, yeah.
And that's almost like a musical performance or a sound poetry performance.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. I suppose, like, I end up thinking about it as, like, Jump Room the Opera, almost.
Yeah,
like,
sure, because it ends with you guys.
Yeah, so I suppose Sean is an artist that the 3 of us have worked together before, and he sings and makes music as his work. So that's where that kind of musical element comes in, although I suppose all 3 of us are quite involved in sound in different ways. And then Soo-yeon is an artist who mostly draws and makes installations, but she also works as a barista. So she
is that where the original idea for the other character came from? Then her experience as a barista.
Yeah, possibly. Although I suppose it is still quite an obvious form of that kind of performative
Yeah, sure.
service work. So it might have happened anyway, but yeah, I can't really remember. Anyway, it was great to have her sort of more direct. I mean, I've done lots of service work, but not that kind of service work. So she brought this kind of more intimate knowledge of that specific kind of workplace, and she expanded that element of it within that performance. The title "Give Good" is, I think, a slogan from Starbucks Christmas cups last year. I think it was like a charity appeal that Starbucks had.
Oh, I see.
She doesn't work at a Starbucks, but so she brought this kind of the texture of that kind of work.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure what I brought. Really.
And then there's also a book which includes writing. You have to remind me, because I actually read the book ages ago in summer when you first gave it to me.
So the book sort of brought documentation of the films and the performances together, but also some drawings, like a set of drawings that I made, a set of drawings that Suyon made, an essay not an essay, but a kind of fictive essay, a piece of fiction by a writer called Honor Gavin, who was commissioned for the book, and then also a reprint of an essay by Virginia Woolf about the cinema. I think it's called The Cinema, or it might be called On the Cinema. I can't quite remember.
Yeah, something like that, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's an essay from the 1920s that has been, obviously it's published in her like collected works, non-fiction works, but it's not, I don't think it's that widely read, and it's quite an interesting take on basically like the potentials of cinematic abstraction. So she sort of goes to, it's an account of her having been to the cinema. She says straight away that she's not interested in the cinema. So if you think about 1920 cinema, it's like silent. It's often stuff that's like adapted from plays, so it might just look like a filmed play, or it's a sort of silent version of like a novel. So that's the typical cinema, aside from newsreel footage that she also mentions. And she says that she's just completely uninterested in that. She doesn't see the point when that kind of literary stuff and dramatic stuff is already done in writing and on the stage. So she sees it as kind of superfluous. But then she sort of recounts having seen this. She describes it in such an amazing way, which I'm not going to be able to kind of paraphrase. But she describes seeing this kind of tadpole shape on the screen, and it's like she's describing for a split second not knowing what that is, and it actually being completely terrifying, and that kind of not knowing and just sort of this abstract image being. She says something like the image is terror itself, so it doesn't represent something in the way that the stagey acting of cinema of that time sort of represents fear. This image sort of becomes fear. And then she realizes that it's a fault in the projector. So she doesn't say exactly what. Maybe it's like the film burning, or some piece of like muck in the lens, or something like that. And it's just, I think it's a really startling kind of take on, like this. She sees this potential for abstraction in cinema that at that time didn't really exist, or not in the way that she saw cinema anyway.
And that connects back to, I was reading your PhD thesis about these kind of spectacular live events like Ben-Hur Live. What are the other ones that you talk about?
Batman Live. Walking with Dinosaurs Live.
And then the Olympics 2012 Olympics kind of spectacle. Was that the opening ceremony?
The opening ceremony, yeah.
And then there's a kind of whole section in there about the idea of the cinematic and the post-cinematic. Yeah. And I guess that connects to the Virginia Woolf essay as well, because it's so crazy to read someone writing about cinema when cinema is like, what's the word? In its kind of
infancy of still developing.
Exactly.
Yeah, and adolescence, I suppose, in the 20s.
Totally. Yeah. It's so weird, the essay, because it's a bit like reading, like, I've just been reading like Nietzsche and Adam Smith writing about like democracy, and they're writing about this thing which is just like just one idea among many. Like what, and it's it's new and it's exciting for lots of people, but it's also like something you could just dismiss if you wanted to. And Virginia Woolf is writing about cinema in that way.
Yeah.
which is super interesting.
She does have like something that I would probably need to give more thought to, but there's a sort of, she doesn't see cinema as a kind of potentially intellectual mode, I guess.
The way she describes people who enjoy cinema
exactly,
is
they're
scathing,
I don't know how you say it, like they're just like dumb, like mute. There's something kind of animalistic to them about to her. And there's a kind of weird class thing there.
Totally.
But yeah, what was I saying? I mean, obviously she doesn't kind of work within abstraction, but she sees this sort of abstract potential for the masses, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I might be sort of projecting that onto it. But I suppose like, you mentioning the post-cinema stuff, I suppose like in that research I was proposing that this kind of earlier moment in cinema in a way maps onto this later mode that we're in now that could be called post-cinema. So where there's sort of, I don't know what you'd say, like coagulation of cinema in its early period sort of might have some similarities to its sort of dissipation now.
How does the Virginia Woolf essay fit into the jump room stuff then?
That's a good question. I think so. In the film that you've seen, which is the third version, which is also the only one that I would let anyone see now, I think. So we can just talk about it as the film. I tried to construct it so there's 3 sections to it. So there's, I suppose, in the order that it's edited, it's a looped thing. But so let's say section 1 is this kind of series of disjointed images that kind of bounce between the 2 screens.
This rhythmic sound as well.
Yeah. So I shot loads of footage, not randomly, but over a long period of time without much intention. And then I tried to match them up in kind of pairs. So you might get a shot of some grass, like on a lawn, and so you get that on one screen, and then on the other screen, just after that, there's a shot of some fake grass in an arena kind of space.
So this is the kind of teleportation of the images back.
Yeah, kind of, or just like trying to impose some sort of order and like a kind of progression one to the next, almost like a grammar, I guess, like one thing, then another thing, then another thing, and it's got that structure of it's got some kind of structure. And then that sort of gives way to this period in the middle with the 2 actors, which begins with this job interview, like you said. So that's a kind of, even though it's still on two screens, it's more straightforwardly cinematic, I guess.
Yeah.
There's people performing to the camera. There's lighting. It's like a higher quality image, or they're both higher quality images. And there's a story, like they're both explaining things that have narratives. And then the section that follows is me trying to make something that's more abstract and messy. So I don't know how successful this was really, but it's just lots of stuff. The way it's shot is it's objects in water, so it's an underwater camera in a bath, and there's lots of basically mess in the water. Some of which is kind of food products that might link to the cafe setting. So there's a bit that I quite like, that I was quite pleased with. That's just like crumbling a muffin into the water, but it's on a black background, so it also kind of alludes to space in some way.
A kind of cinematic portrayal of space.
Yeah. So stuff floating around, and
I really liked how the narrative kind of emerges out of chaos and then kind of tumbles back in.
Yeah.
In terms of, coherence anyway.
Yeah. And I suppose, I mean, to me, like the time that I was making it, there was a lot of talk about political narrative, and particularly around the Labour Party at that time. So I was making this work, sort of thinking about it on the lead up to the last general election.
Right, yeah.
And there was a lot of talk about how the Labour Party lacked a narrative, like it needed a strong narrative. And I'm not quite sure how that links to what I was doing, but it's maybe too much of a stretch to like link that to the cinematic lack of narrative that Woolf is
just
proposing.
immediately what I thought of, like the idea that there's a kind of the kind of reactionary elements in the Labour Party was so obsessed with having something clearly coherent, and it was in an insulting way just kind of describing the members or the people who might vote for the Labour Party as people who needed something simple and clear to grip onto.
Yeah.
And I guess in the same way that you're reading Virginia Woolf as having a kind of moment of like, oh, like we can make a kind of popular abstraction through the cinema. Like there was another narrative which was that like, no, people can understand the kind of, I don't know, new way of doing politics, which has different levels and different modes of engagement or something. Yeah, I don't think I was never thinking of like the Labour Party in 2017 when I was watching the film. But yeah, I see what you mean.
And I suppose I wanted to put something, because so a critique of almost any conspiracy theory would be that it's kind of applying a very obvious kind of narrative to very complex events and systems. So if you say like, oh, the government is doing this because they're all aliens and that's why they're bad or something, that's a very kind of simplistic narrative. So I suppose I was trying to think about this idea of like narrative good or narrative bad.
Yeah.
And then the Virginia Woolf thing, like this potential of abstraction, I think is really fascinating, but I'm not sure. I wouldn't really say that that's a kind of achievable goal for something.
I think also it makes me think of when she describes the reason that she thinks that tadpole is important is because she has a very strong moment of whatever, an affective reaction of terror, right? But that isn't, like, if you take that, like, cinema does incorporate those very strong affective moments into its into the experience, particularly now with like huge screens and huge effects and the ability to kind of inspire terror or whatever through the kind of spectacular moments of cinema. And they're not abstract in the way that she's describing, but they are abstract in another way, in the sense that they're part of a story only in the kind of most basic sense. It's like, oh, here's an opportunity to show a huge thing appearing on the screen, or like have some really loud sound, or they are abstract in terms of the effective qualities which she describes as the desirable outcome, i.e. to feel something strongly. I think that's the, like, abstraction does exist in a lot of like populist forms, but it doesn't exist in that kind of modernist way. It's more like the desired outcome is abstracted and being like, okay, how are we going to hit that button like the hardest we can?
And I think it's quite like you say, this kind of affect that she's describing, I don't really feel like that's part of the conspiracy scenario. Like the what like Andrew Bouchard would call it, like the truth community. Like it's not, it doesn't really seem to contain that kind of horror, like, oh yeah, right, the government are all aliens, like, it's like, it's all like, oh yeah, well, we already sort of knew that. And I think it's quite interesting.
The particular conspiracy theory of the jump room, or the wider idea of conspiracy theories.
Well, I suppose it's not about shock. I think it's not. There's no reveal, because you already know that everyone's lying to you, so therefore nothing is surprising.
But then makes me think of two things. It makes me think of Peter Sloterdijk and his critique of cynical reason. This idea of like the always already knowledgeable cynic, someone who's like always ready, and all they have to do is like look around and find their explanation, and whether that's in like political theory or conspiracy, then they've always got something prepared. And then it also makes me think of this Sylvan Tompkins, this psychologist I've been reading through Eve Sedgwick, about his ideas of sorry, it's all affect theory stuff just because that's what I've been looking at the moment. But he had kind of we go towards positive affects. Obviously, we go towards like happiness and joy. We try and minimise negative affects, and they're kind of the basic, behavioural principles or something. And there's a third one, which is like we like to express ourselves. We like to be able to express our emotions. And then there's a fourth one, which is like we like to be in control of how and when and for how long we feel emotions. And Sylvan Tompkins says this is like the least possible thing. This is almost like a godlike image we have in our head of a being that might ever be able to control their emotions. And I think conspiracy theory, there's some modes which are more about expressing horror, fear, disgust, whatever. And there's maybe some conspiracy theories which lock into that mode of being, which is more like, yeah, of course they're all aliens. Because if you look at this New World Order thing, then this explains this, and then actually that looks into the jump room and everything just starts connecting up, and it implies that you have a level of control over what is obviously a massively complex world or whatever.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Lost Ones.
Yeah.
So you've just come from a press junket for the announcement.
Definitely not a junket.
Let's call it a junket. I don't really know what a junket is.
Well,
but
before we did it, I was imagining like a press conference before a football match, but it wasn't like that.
So what was it for? Sorry, say what it's for.
The whole thing was for the Jerwood Arts' programme for the next year, and I'm doing the Jerwood's Film and Video Umbrella Commission.
Amazing.
For this year, which is very, very great.
But you didn't have to make any kind of statement or
I didn't do anything.
No questions.
I just ate some stuff and drank a cup of coffee. I was like a prop,
probably.
basically.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But yeah, it was nice. It was a relaxed thing.
And so this project is called The Lost Ones.
Yeah. So this is a project that is sort of trying to I don't know how to phrase this, but it's basically using the what we sort of think of now as the hostile environment as a set of kind of political aims that are manifest as bureaucratic systems.
This is the hostile environment policy of the UK immigration system.
Yes, brought in under our current Prime Minister when she was Home Secretary. So this is, to me, my interpretation of this set of policies is that it tries to achieve a reduction in immigration through making the processes of applying for resident status so difficult that people will give up or be priced out of it or not be able to understand very complex language in a language that's not their native one. So I suppose like the stuff that I maybe know more about is not things like the asylum system. It's the spousal what's it called? Spousal visa system, something like that. And the other systems like if you've got a job that's high paying enough to settle, the system is roughly the same. So it's this kind of, I suppose, like what the Home Office would call legal immigration. Or the way that's administrated. What was I going to say? Yeah, so I'm making a film kind of using some material from that.
And the title, The Lost Ones, is the title of a Samuel Beckett short story?
It's a novella, I think, but it's very short. And it's not... I suppose the reason that it's still called that is that... So I'm trying to make this film from... I'm trying to make it about... it's about the UK population rather than however we would term, the others that are trying to enter the country. It's about this kind of environment rather than necessarily the victims of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. How do you make a film about the background then?
Yeah, well, I'm saying about, and that's like these terms that I'm trying to avoid, saying that it like deals with or addresses these situations, because I'm not sure whether it really does or whether I'm capable of doing that through an artwork.
I'm using the word engage with at the moment.
Engage with, yeah.
Because like trying to use it as medium and form rather than trying to portray it or represent it sometimes?
Well, I think it's subject matter. I'm trying to use it as subject matter, but in a responsible way.
What stage are you at in the project? That's probably a good way to start.
Yeah, so it's got I don't really want to sort of describe exactly what it's going to be, but it has a script. I have a bunch of performers that are kind of signed up to be in it. I usually use, not unlike the Jump Room actually, usually I've used improvised performance rather than scripted performance. So parts of this are scripted, but it's kind of scripted as questions for people to respond to. So in some ways it sort of apes the format of like an immigration interview.
So they're questions taken from
they're kind of
forms.
Derived from it. So they're adapted and added to. I mean, the other element within this film, which is going to sound very strange now, is this story that I came across and other people might know through a book that came out fairly recently about this talking mongoose called Jeff. So Jeff was a talking mongoose that supposedly lived in a family's house on the Isle of Man. And Jeff was this like intelligent creature that lived inside the walls of their house and sort of shouted at them and abused them and threw things at them, but also would sort of sometimes be very friendly and kind of promise to reveal himself to interested parties that would visit the house, and then maybe the family would be able to get out of their quite severe poverty by making Jeff into this kind of attraction in some way.
And there were interested parties. People went over and stayed.
Yeah, there was loads of like, it was a time when spiritualists were like very active and people would, it was a known thing. It was like written about in papers and there were lots of experts who sort of believed this story.
But it's commonly understood now to be some kind of fantasy in the family.
Well, it's interesting because they never know. So there's 3 people in this family and none of them ever sort of revealed any part of what was actually going on. So it's just not known, like who. So there was some people did hear a voice, like visitors to the house would hear this voice, but it's not known who that voice was, like whether it was maybe the daughter ventriloquizing or something else.
There were kind of various theories about who was doing what within that, but it was never kind of decisively proved. Or none of the family ever said, it was just a stupid thing that we did.
So I suppose what I was interested in with that story in this kind of context is that this family, one way of looking at it is that they created this kind of malevolent presence that was torturing them and ordering them about, that was kind of, as far as their story goes, that was kind of out of their control and was making their lives miserable at times. And they're kind of locked into this kind of small, literally a house. They live in this house on an island. They're kind of isolated and they can't find a way out of this situation. They can't make it work for them. Like, it never really brought in any money for them. They were kind of trapped in this situation.
Yeah.
So hopefully that kind of
how's that going to feed in? Is is the voice off screen or something? Is that? I can't remember
there's going to be a voice of an unseen kind of interrogator.
Yeah. And they're going to have malevolent vibes.
Yeah, they are. Very much. Yeah. Where it's at is that we're kind of gearing up to building a set.
Sweet.
And just having these quite experimental shooting days. We're shooting over 3 days.
Right.
And then it'll all get edited together.
So you're working with actors who are kind of interested in improvisation and...
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Broadly, yeah. They're quite a range. Like, some of them are quite experienced people that have done things on stage and on TV, and then some of them are not actors really at all.
So do you direct? Is that your role?
I don't really know what my role's going to be on this one. In the past, I would have been perhaps like asking these questions.
Right,
I'm not going to be doing that this time. There's a voice actor that's going to be the questionnaire. So I don't really know what I'm going to be doing. Maybe I won't be doing much at all. I'll just sort of set it off and see
How do you feel
what
when
happens.
in those situations in which I have, not trying to freak her out, but whenever I have like a few days to do something, and when I'm asking people to do something for me, even if I'm paying them, I find it I find it horrifying, actually. Like the few days before it, I tend to have like extreme feelings of dread, terror. And it's fine, it's always fine in the end, but how do you kind of go into those? Do you freak out, or do you prepare over a long time?
I feel similar to you, I think. I really dread them. But then it's really important to me that people who are involved in that kind of process are kind of well hosted, in a sense.
Yeah.
Like you say, even if they're getting paid, that needs to be an experience that is something in and of itself, as well as, on the way to producing a film of mine.
Yeah. How do you do that?
Well, in the past, I've tried just to be really nice to people. I'm a bit like with this one, because the subject matter is quite difficult, I think.
Oh, okay.
Just dealing with things around immigration and all the kind of baggage around that. I suppose they all know that is the subject. They don't know exactly what they're going to be asked.
Are some of them in that process, or is it?
Some of them have been involved with it, yeah.
Right, okay. So they're people who might have experiences of immigration.
Yes, they're all British born, so I kind of specified that. But some of them do have, some experience of becoming subjects to the Home Office's inquiries. Yeah. I suppose things that I've done in the past, they're maybe a bit more, less contentious. Like I've done things around like elements of local history or local architecture or stuff like that, which is obviously you can get into difficult territory with anything, but I don't really know what I'm trying to say here. But
I'm quite interested. As in, you're worried about kind of getting them to talk about something that is contentious and then be on film for the rest of their lives, kind of thing.
Yes, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, that's it.
But also because there's no script and we're in a sense interrogating them. Like it's not going to be the film, the time that they're on camera. We're not going to be being nice to them.
Sure.
There's going to be like a voice that they can't see that's going to be saying quite kind of harsh things to them. So I suppose, in more practical terms, aside from just being nice to them, it's things like making sure there's lots of time. So no one's like rushed in and out. If someone has an issue, there's time to sort of talk it over and make sure that they still feel all right about being in it. Making sure that they don't, it could be that they actually come out of the shoot not wanting to be in it. So I wouldn't insist on their participation in the final film. And then I tend to work, because the performers have got a real range of experience and education in performance or whatever. We have a kind of workshop, improv. I don't know what to call this role, like director of actors.
Okay.
Someone who's much more experienced with performers than I am, someone that teaches acting and improv.
That's great.
So they're going to be there to sort of prepare the less experienced people.
And is that someone you knew already? Is that someone you got
through
FEU?
Through FEU. Yeah, it was someone that we recruited as part of the project.
That's great. What other elements? Because obviously they provide money, but they also kind of provide production support. Is that right?
Yeah.
Have they helped you find any other?
They've helped. Well, the main thing is they provide a production manager.
Oh, great.
And I'm so used to. Well, I'm not used to, but I've always just done that kind of stuff for myself.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to have someone who's fully like on board with the project. Well, not on board, but they're employed by the project, and just have someone to talk things over with, and just sort of be there and be more like a team doing this thing. On the other hand, that's quite daunting because people are investing their time and professional efforts in my ideas. But yeah, that's been the main difference, really. Like aside from the budget.
So you're not having to be responsible for the space that, like, they found the space to shoot, or they've helped you.
Not exactly, but yeah, they would do, I guess,
Sure.
if that had been a problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose I was looking at that the book that we were talking about. I was rereading it on the way here, the Jump Room book.
Oh right, yeah.
Like I wrote an introductory text for that book, sort of as the artist, but also as the person who project managed those works, and it's a really. I think I've written that in a really weird way.
That's interesting. Like you couldn't just lose that project management bit and just talk as an artist. You kind of ended up incorporating that in.
Yeah, well, I suppose I wanted it to have. Maybe that's the kind of text that ordinarily maybe a curator would write, or I don't know, just someone else who wasn't invested in the same way that I was. Someone who's a bit outside of it.
Do you see like your whatever career or practice as it's developed? Do you feel like you've been able to pass off roles to other people? Then is that a kind of process that you're happy to do? Some people, want to kind of maintain control, but obviously within, especially if you're trying to make film or video, it's actually very hard to.
No, I think I've kind of gotten. I really like handing over things to other people. Like this current one, The Lost Ones. Also, there's a musician that's going to make some music for it, and I'm not a musician at all. But in the past, I've made large bits of soundtracks for my own work.
That's good. Just stepping up and like, right, I can do this.
Yeah, well, just sometimes it's just come to that, like, oh, there's no musician, so
yeah.
I suppose it'll be me. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to that as not a collaboration exact, but just like a bit of it that someone else is just going to, have their own take on. And I think that's sort of come out of the performances, really, like just sort of trusting people to do something else, and chuck it into this project.
Yeah, which is different. It is different from collaboration. So often in art, people talk about collaboration, but in other worlds, it would be just people's roles in a project.
Yeah,
and it's nice to know when that distinction, what that distinction is, and why it's important sometimes.
Yeah,
like I guess your job, if you're working with a musician, is to tell them what you want, and then kind of give them feedback throughout, whereas collaborating is a whole different kind of
I think fish. Yeah, collaborating is a heavy term that's used quite freely, I think. I mean, I think it works better for me to just set very clear boundaries, like different state. Like I was talking to someone earlier today about another project where I worked in this village in Merseyside, and people from that village volunteered to be part of this film that I was making, and we almost treated the shoot as its own entity. So the shoot was one thing, and I made it clear from the start that there would be video material generated from it, and then that would be mine. I would take that away and make a video out of it.
So there's a transaction there.
Yeah, but that just meant that we put a lot of emphasis on making those shooting days really productive in other ways other than creating this video material.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
They were like events in their own right. And that with that project that felt like it worked quite well, I think. Yeah.
Is that what you aim to do for this, or is that a bit different because that sounds like volunteers or?
It is a bit different, but I think there's still an echo of that. I don't want it to feel like a traditional, well, not traditional, but like a standard film or TV shoot. It's very kind of orientated towards getting these certain things, within a certain time.
Yeah, it
needs to be a bit more exploratory than that, and but definitely not to the point of it being collaborative with the performers.
I think it's interesting collaboration, isn't it? Especially in the more like the situation you described with the volunteers, where people are part of a project for a small amount of time, and it's out of their own choice to kind of be part of that project, and then the kind of responsibility of almost being a co-author is kind of foisted on them at the end, and it's often not actually made clear what benefit being the author of an artwork might be to the artist who's initiated the project. You can see what the benefit of being the author of the thing is, but to people who are kind of playing a specific role or volunteering or something, I'm not quite sure what that benefit would be.
It potentially puts more. it lays more responsibility on them, but not necessarily any more power for them.
Yeah.
That's why we'd be wary of it, I think.
And in the situation, I mean, obviously it's much clearer in the situation where you're employing someone. It's good with the production manager as well, because you can just blame them if anything goes wrong. Is that how it works?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I presume so. Yeah.
Thanks so much to Richard for talking to me. If you want to go and see his exhibition Going Gone, he's in that exhibition with Webb Ellis, the artist duo. It's on right now at Sherwood Space in London until the 2nd of June, and it's really worth seeing the film. Thanks for listening to the podcast. All right, bye.